What's up? Welcome in. Hoge and Jahns with you after what I got to say, Johnsy, probably the least eventful, most drama-free end of season press conference that we've seen in quite some time.
Like it had some 2015 like vibes, right? Like first year of Ryan Pace, John Fox. But even then, like it was like what's next with Jay Cutler, right? That was kind of hanging over.
You know what the comp was? I think it was the end of 2016, which is like, okay, the foundation's in place. You cleared out you've had 2 years now to clear out all the crap. And now you have the number 3 overall pick in the draft. What are you going to do with it? Ryan Pace getting up there being like, we're never going to be in this position ever again.
But they still had Cutler.
No, then
they cut him later.
They cut him later.
Yeah,
but
he
you can kind of see it coming.
Yeah,
but yeah, I guess you're right. Yeah, it was an interesting press conference. I think it was mostly good and we got some answers, but still some things to discuss here, which is why we're here on the podcast.
Yeah. Hold on. Let me, it's the last. It's not a beer. It's an RC.
Why not?
Adam Hoge.
Oh, which you stole from House Hall. Because there's no way you bought that.
I don't know where else to get them.
You stole that from House Hall.
Yeah. I'm not ordering a pizza tonight, so I can't get my free liter of RC. So let's break down this Bears post-season press conference with some RC, Adam.
Okay. It's only fitting. Hey, I feel like this whole season started with that RC cola bit. And
I need some caffeine. That's it.
Okay. Should we start with the quarterback?
Of course.
Okay. So we got some audio here that our producer Kent put together. By the way, follow us on Twitter. Read us. The Athletics got you covered. All types of coverage. All CHGOs got you covered. All types of coverage. My newsletter's coming out in the morning, which will have a bunch of stuff on this too. So make sure you're set up with all that. But let's hear Ryan Poles on Justin Fields, and we'll react to that first.
Do you plan on Justin Fields being your starting quarterback next year?
Yeah, we had good conversations. I'm excited for the direction he's going. And as I mentioned before, he knows where he has to improve. I think you mentioned that the other day. So we're excited about his development and where he goes next. He showed ability to be impactful with his legs. There's flashes with his arm. Now, if we can put that together, I think we have something really good.
Because you have the first pick, there are people that sit there and go, the quarterback might be available there. But you're saying Justin's your guy.
Well, we're going to do the same as we've always done. We're going to evaluate the draft class. And I would say this, I'd have to be absolutely blown away to make that type of decision.
Ryan, specifically, do you want to see Justin Fields get better as a passer?
Yeah, just as a passer, just for things to slow down mentally and then be able to react and anticipate quicker. Obviously, with that, we also have to continue to build around him so that he can do that consistently as well.
What did you learn about him, just watching him kind of develop as that leader of this offense?
Yeah, resilient. A guy that has ownership, he has growth mindset. The amount of time that he put in with the coaches to continue to get better, the guy is hungry to be successful in this league.
As you saw Justin progress during the season, did you at any point regret that you hadn't put better pieces around him?
No, I thought we used the resources that we had to the best of our ability based on what was there. I think that's kind of what I go back to in terms of making sound decisions. And that's hard. I wish it was a perfect scenario where you could just clean up everything and be good. So I thought we made solid, sound decisions to do that. I wish it was perfect across the board to give him so it was clean as much as possible, but it just doesn't always happen that way. But again, now looking at where we can go currently, we have flexibility to do a little bit more. Now the second piece is, like Brad said, like what talent's there for us to bring in and can it help move the needle to help everybody get better.
You're excited to see where he's going. Was there a moment for you when you said, oh, wow, this is something where now I am really excited? Was there a specific moment that started that for you?
Yeah, well, it was like mid-season when he really started to go off with his legs, create explosive plays. You know, you think of plays like the shot to Mooney, the shot to Pettis in the corner of the end zone. I think that was Washington. Those deep ball throws that we know he can make. Now it's just closing in the gap and being consistent with it. And again, I know the beautiful thing about football is we can't point at one. You can never point at one person and be like, it's his fault. No, it's a collective where everything's got to work together. So I know, and we know, if we continue to grow this football team, bring in a lot of really good players, that everyone's going to get better collectively.
Ryan, extension of that, when you have the top-ranked rushing offense in the NFL, the 32nd ranked passing offense, what, through your lens, do you see in terms of that and the need to rectify that or find more balance?
Yeah, I think a little bit too. I think it's like chemistry, just working with the group around him. I noticed like through the season, the guys that he had the most time with in the off season, that transferred into the season. I think that's why Cole had a hell of a year. So that chemistry, building that chemistry is big, and then just letting the game slow down to him. Everything's new. This offense was new and you've seen everything for the first time. So time on task, I think, is going to help.
You know, I thought that answer to Jason's question about, like, do you regret not putting more around him was very telling, because it was like, no, we pretty much did everything we could with what we had this year, and now it's go time. Now it's, with all these resources we have, now we can do that, and it just kind of refreshing to hear the honesty too. Now some might quibble that could you have signed this guy and maybe, but I don't know. I think that was a very interesting answer.
Well, yeah, the critics will say the salary cap is always fluid and whatnot, but when you had a record-setting amount of dead money, more dead money contracts than actually active salary contracts in your books, it's going to be different. You want to set yourself up for something different in the future, which is now 2023, where the Bears have the most salary cap space. I agree with you. I appreciated his candor and just how he saw the season like the rest of us. Everybody saw Justin Fields be this explosive playmaker. A lot of that came with his legs. He acknowledged that there were flashes with his arm. We've been pretty consistent with that. We all saw the flashes. We still see the arm talent, but we all know he's got to get better as a passer. We also know the help needs to get better. He acknowledged that as well. He had his limitations last year, obviously, because of what was left to him, and now it's different. So I'd like that he saw the season like the most of us.
Yeah. That's why I kind of asked him that question, too, about did you expect to win more games? Because it's like, okay, it seems like we can talk freely here. Everyone understands what you're doing. Everybody around the league understands what you're doing. You're ripping this thing down. Did you expect to win more games? He kind of walked around that a little bit, but I think if you combine what he had to say about how he wants to win and wanted to win some of those close games with some of the things that you've said throughout the season in the press box about reactions to plays that have happened,
fired up. Yeah.
I think that they're surprised that they have the number one overall pick. Don't you?
Yeah. Like you said, plan to lose this much. I don't know if they planned to win this much. They expected, or let's say they definitely hoped to win more. I point to those games that, polls kind of highlighted them. Justin Fields mentioned the games in the middle of the year where they scored more than 30 points or were close to that. Those were all close games that the offense had them in. The Washington game wasn't high scoring, but that was there to be won. The Dolphins game was very high scoring, there to be won. The Lions game, there to be won. Falcons game, there to be won. The storyline of Justin Fields in the offense, learning how to finish games, doesn't become a storyline if they're not in games. They were in games.
But there they are. They have the number one pick when it was all said and done. So here's what Ryan Poles had to say about that, acquiring the first overall pick in the NFL draft.
How pivotal is this opportunity this offseason? Is this what you've been waiting for the past year, as you've been doing cleanup and tear down, and now you have the chance to really do what you want?
I'd say the approach is the same. We're going to evaluate the players. We're going to put them in certain value buckets, and then we're going to attack it and get as many good players in here as possible. I don't think, I think you make a mistake and say this is it. This is No, we're going to approach it the same and be consistent so that we make sound decisions.
What kind of leverage do you view yourself in right now, knowing the offers you could field this year and potentially garnering more draft capital?
Yeah, I think it goes back to what I said about flexibility. I think we can evaluate the talent there. We can see what player presents himself in that position to help us. And then we can also look at the scenarios. If the phones go off and then there's certain situations where we think that can help us, then we'll go down that avenue too. So I think we have really good flexibility to help this team, regardless if it's making the pick there or moving back a little bit or moving back a lot. We'll be open-minded about everything.
Were you watching and hoping for Houston that day? I mean, how did it all go down?
I knew this. Yeah, I knew the scenario, but I had no. After the game, that it was on a TV, I think upstairs, or that they switched to it when I left the box. But at that point, I just wanted to spend time with the players after the game and tell them how much I appreciate everything that they put into the season.
What do you look at as the priority? What's the thing that you say this is the number one problem we need to fix?
It's hard to identify that right now, but I always go back to the premium positions. We're always going to look at pass rushers. We're going to look at offensive linemen, corners. So that's where we're always going to start and see if can we play winning football with those premium positions, and then we move from there.
Is that the order? I mean, that's usually the order for a team is quarterback, pass rusher,
yep,
left tackle, stuff like that. So I mean, pass rusher. If you're good with Justin, then pass rusher is the number one thing you need.
It's hard to say in order. That's something that we're going to reflect on and see what that priority looks like. We actually go through with our staff and we'll rank those. So, but I always start with the premium positions and see, are we good enough in those, and then move from there.
In free agency, coming up in March, it looked like a good group, middle of the road. I'm sure you kind of eyeballed who could potentially be out there, understanding some guys probably don't make it to marketplace.
Right. So we went through a first phase with a couple positions to kind of see how it stacked up and eyeballed. We are starting next week where we sit, just same situations as draft room, where we go position by position. So it's hard to tell right now how deep it is in different areas. But I guess that's something we'll find out here next week when we kind of finish all the way across.
How about John Greenberg of The Athletic just calling Ryan Poles a liar to his face?
I don't mean to be laughing, but come on, John. I actually believe Ryan Poles. He probably went out of his way not to watch it. I'll be honest.
Yeah, so this was a response
I have on Poles. Yeah.
Yeah. So him saying that he knew the Texans game was going on, but he wasn't paying attention to it. John followed up with the last question of the press conference. I don't think anyone in here believes you. He's like, no, really, I really wasn't paying. I actually believe him too.
So do I. There's no reason to lie about it. He actually acknowledged it came on in his box as he was leaving late in the game because the broadcast itself changed across the board nationally. It went from Bears Vikings to Colts Texans because everybody was watching it.
Yeah. I feel like, should we make bold predictions right now on what happens with this number one pick?
On January 10th, you want to do this? I feel good about my bold predictions, though. I'm hot.
Yeah, you're hot with one. Congratulations on in week 18 getting your
It was the other predictions, too. It was calling out the whole scenario of Bears losing, Texans winning, Seahawks winning, Lions ending the Packers season. I feel real good about my bold predictions. So if you're listening, get ready. Go ahead. What do you got?
I think the Bears trade out, and I think it happens a few weeks out before the draft. I don't think it's a draft night trade. I think it's one of these trades we've seen in recent years, whether it was the 49ers moving up, whether it was the Jared Goff trade that happened. It happened prior to the draft.
Yeah, the Jared Goff trade happened 2.5 weeks before the actual draft.
Yeah. I think that's what happens. I think it's a mid-April, after free agency, after we know where the Bears have spent some money, whether that's on the 3 technique, whether it's on the edge rusher, whether it's on the O-line. Once they see how the quarterback market plays out, there's a lot of questions out there. There's a lot of moving pieces. What happens with Aaron Rodgers? Where's he playing? Where's Tom Brady playing?
Derek Carr.
Where's Derek Carr? I mean, that could really affect things. But I think ultimately they move back to 2 or they move back to 4. And then on draft night, there's the possibility they trade back even more, or do they sit pat and land on their guy? I think that's ultimately, if I had to guess right now on January 10th, how I think it plays out.
There are 2 teams like I really like in this trade back scenario. Like we can have fun with the Houston Texans with the whole Mitch Trubisky comparisons. If teams are calling the Texans about their pick, maybe they have to move up to get the quarterback they want, right? Like you can have fun with that. I get that. I'm
going to move out of the sun, by the way.
Oh, you're having the issues that I have.
While you're talking, I'm just going to switch seats here.
Crotch shot if you're watching.
Hey,
we don't need that on YouTube. Man. Sorry about that.
We got our number one
for those listening the usual way. I'm not going to describe what was just seen, but anyway, back to the Mitch Trubisky comparison.
Kent can blur that out on the post edit.
Thanks, Kent. We can have fun with the Trubisky comparisons because the Texans are the Texans and they lost the first overall pick. And maybe they'll fall in love with a certain quarterback and teams will start calling them. But you look at the Colts at number 4. You have an owner who is fed up with veteran quarterbacks. Go read this outstanding feature by Zach Kiefer on what happened with the Colts. And there was a couple paragraphs in there about Jim Irsay just being done with the veteran quarterback route. And then today, the same day that Poles and Eberflus talked, you had Chris Ballard saying that he would move a lot of things now if he felt compelled to go for that quarterback, like if he believed in it. I feel like that's going to happen. Ballard may not be fully in, but he's going to be pushed in by his owner. Okay? The other team is number 9, the Panthers. They've also gone through the veteran quarterback route, the trade route, and now you have a situation where I think that owner is ready to, I don't want to say force the issue, but be excited about a younger quarterback for their team other than some retread. And they got a lot of draft capital, Adam Hoge, because of the Christian McCaffrey trade. A lot of draft capital that can help make that move.
Rich, desperate owners who are used to getting everything they want in life can be something you might want to take advantage of in this situation is what I'm getting at. And look, there's different look, all these owners are rich, right? But there's a difference between these guys who are outside of football, like actual billionaires, right? That they live life differently than the McCaskies do, for instance. Just bring it locally. I think that you name 2 teams there with the Colts and Panthers who definitely fall in that situation right now. And the Panthers too, like if you're David Tepper, you gotta be like, we were sitting right damn there. We could have had Justin Fields. And instead we drafted JC Horn. Like what are we doing? Can't screw that up again. So yeah. I personally wouldn't. I want to be careful about, if I'm Ryan Poles, I want to be careful about how far back I'm moving. Because, and I talked about this on the CHGO show yesterday, if you go back and track like the number 1 overall picks or non-QB picks, whoever the first selection is that's not a quarterback since at least 2017, they rarely bust out, Johns. Like these guys are usually generational building blocks. You get down to that 2nd, 3rd, 4th guy that's not a quarterback drafted. That's where you start to run into like the Cleveland Farrells of the world, and
it's also the Raiders who are also another option for this trade.
True, but my point is usually the number 1 overall pick that's not a quarterback is a lock, is a stud.
Yeah.
And I just think, yes, trading back is great, adding more draft capital is great, but make sure you get out of this thing too with a real ass football player.
So here's my bold prediction. It's going to be the Colts. I can already hear the press conferences about having a great relationship between Ryan Poles, or how a great relationship between Ryan Poles and Chris Ballard facilitated this trade, right? Mm-hmm. You could just already hear it coming to fruition. And you're right. If you're Ryan Poles, you don't want to move back too far. You want a shot at Jalen Carter, Will Anderson, or the top offensive tackle on your board. And you get that at number 4. You might not get that at number 9.
Yeah. Someday there's going to be a book written about the end of that Texans-Indy game.
Or at least a very long athletic feature.
Just like think about the different chapters it could be. I mean, one, it's Colts leapfrog Texans for the quarterback. Texans go into like another decade of despair or something. I mean, think about it like if it was like the Manning Ryan Leaf year, and that was the difference. Like you got the number 1 pick because Lovie Smith knew he was getting fired. That's a whole nother chapter. What happens to Lovie?
Well, I would say you did it to yourself, Texans.
Well, right.
You did it all to yourself. Not forget. Like it's a whole assembly of errors that led to that point beyond just putting Lovie Smith in that situation. Because good for Lovie Smith. Good for going for the win.
Like if you're the Texans, you either got to fire Lovie with 3 weeks to go, or at least make him seem like he's safe. I mean, come on. He had no incentive to lose that game.
None.
No incentive to lose that game.
None.
I can't wait to see the fallout of that whole thing. It's still incredible that it happened. I mean, if you're watching that game, and incredible for the Bears, but also possibly incredible for the Colts, because otherwise they would have had no chance to leapfrog the Texans. So, thanks to Jeff Saturday, I guess. What a weird situation that is. Hey, by now you probably know our next partner, and it's a really cool product. Let's talk about Athletic Greens. If you're looking to get better gut health, more energy, or a stronger immune system in a really easy, natural way, you've got to check out Athletic Greens. I'm sure you'll agree that most of us are not huge fans of having to take a bunch of pills or vitamins in the morning. But with Athletic Greens, you can get rid of all of those extra vitamin bottles and finally make some room in your cabinet. Athletic Greens is an all-in-one solution, and you'll really enjoy getting your daily vitamins. So what is this stuff? With 1 scoop of Athletic Greens, you're absorbing 75 high-quality vitamins, minerals, whole food source superfoods, probiotics, and adaptogens to help you start your day right. The special blend of ingredients supports your gut health, your nervous system, your immune system, your energy, recovery, focus, and aging. All of those things. Right now is the time to reclaim your health and arm your immune system with convenient daily nutrition, especially as we head into the flu and cold season. It's just 1 scoop in a cup of water every day. That's it. No need for a million different pills and supplements to look out for your health. And to make it easy, Athletic Greens is going to give you a free 1-year supply of immune-supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. All you have to do is visit athleticgreens.com/Adams. Again, that is athleticgreens.com/Adams, plural, to take ownership over your health and pick up the ultimate daily nutritional insurance.
3, 2, 1. Happy New Year from our friends at Manscaped. The ball has officially dropped, but that doesn't mean you have to drop the ball on your balls in 2023. Whether you had a New Year's kiss or not, the leaders in below-the-waist grooming have you covered for a much-needed resolution in bringing sexy back. Join the 7 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped with our exclusive offer. Go to manscaped.com and use code ADAM23 for 20% off, plus free shipping. Let us have a toast for a new year, new you, and a new you with no pubes. This year, take your package to the next level with their Performance Package 4.0 and other premium wet goods. Inside the Performance Package 4.0, you'll find their signature lawnmower. Their advanced skin-safe technology reduces cuts and nicks on your delicate parts. That's always good. It also comes equipped with a 4000K LED spotlight that'll shine a light to the promised land. And the grooming routine isn't complete without applying that crop preserver and crop reviver. These unique foundations take care of the smelliest parts of your body and are a big boost to your confidence in the new year. So if you really want to make 2023 the year to remember for you and for someone you care about, make sure to try out Manscaped's wet goods as well. This includes the Ultra Premium Body Wash, the 2-in-1 shampoo, and body deodorant. So cheers to new balls in 2023. Get 20% off and free shipping with code ADAM23 at manscaped.com. That's 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com and use code ADAM23. It's time to feel sexy and free in 2023 with Manscaped. With all the traveling, taking care of kids, coaching, podcasting, and everything in between, it's hard for us at Team Hoge Jahns to find a shirt that fits all occasions. That is, until we found Roan. Men's closets were due for a radical reinvention, and Roan stepped up to the challenge. Roan's commuter collection is the most comfortable, breathable, flexible set of products known to man. Here's why. Roan helps you get ready for any occasion with the commuter collection, which offers the world's most comfortable pants, dress shirts, quarter zips, and polos. You never have to worry about what to wear when you have the Roan commuter collection. Mobility is everything. Roan's comfortable 4-way stretch fabric provides breathability and flexibility. Leaves you free to enjoy what life throws your way, from your commute to your work to your 18 holes of golf. And it's time to feel confident without the hassle. With Roan's wrinkle release technology, wrinkles disappear as you stretch and wear the products. It's that easy. With Gold Fusion anti-odor technology, you'll be smelling fresh and clean all day long. And on top of that, Roan's 100% machine washable, so you can ditch the dry cleaner altogether. Roan has been the perfect press box, parenting, and our personal favorite shirt ever since we got them, and we know you'll love them too. The commuter collection can get you through any workday and straight into whatever comes next, so head to roan.com/Adam and use promo code ADAM to save 20% off your entire order. That's 20% off your order when you head to RHONE.com/Adam and use code ADAM. It's time to find your corner office comfort.
All right. Let's talk about what Ryan Poles had to say about the offensive line, and there's some stuff in here about Braxton Jones as well.
How do you evaluate the production, the effort, the play you got from your O-line this season?
Yeah, I thought, I'll start with the positives. The run game stuff was outstanding. I thought they did a good job. I thought I talked about earlier about putting guys in position to succeed. I thought Tevin was successful moving a guard. That was fun to see him go through that. But as a unit, I thought the run game was really good. But we have to get better in pass pro. They all know that, and they're up for the challenge. And we got to continue, for those that aren't here, we got to continue to bring in players that can help us do that.
Right. And going off that, who do you think you found on the offensive line that are starters going forward? And where do you think you need upgrades?
Yeah, so we're working through that. We're going to get with the offensive coaches and kind of go through the rankings and talk about future. I'll start. I was proud of Braxton. He's got a long ways to go to reach his ceiling. But for his path, and if you look at not many people look at the schedule for a player who, goes into the offseason, Senior Bowl, Combine, comes in as a 5th-round pick, battles through camp, gets a spot, and then plays every single snap through the season. That's an accomplishment right there. That tells me he's wired right. He's got mental toughness, rode the ups and downs. So I'm hoping that he continues to work on his body, his technique, and that's someone that we can play with and be successful with for a while.
I don't know if that means he's the left tackle going forward, but it certainly sounds like Braxton Jones is a high likelihood of being a starter on this offensive line next season. And I think he really made some good points about just the grind that these rookies go through. It applies to all rookies, but I think especially for someone to deliver the way he did at left freaking tackle in the NFL and play every snap. He's the only guy on offense that played every snap this year. Yeah. That's an accomplishment. That's like an Iron Man streak that in the NFL it matters, especially on the offensive line.
Before week 1, remember the matchup stories? Nick Bosa versus Braxton Jones.
Yeah.
He held his own. He gave, according to True Media, he gave up 7 sacks this year. The pressure numbers are obviously evident, but if you talk to Braxton Jones in the locker room on Monday, he's got to get better. He told you himself. He's got to get stronger. He's got to work on the bull rush. Some of that is his current strength, but I think the Bears have something there. At least they believe they have something there. Now, whether that's at left tackle or right tackle remains to be seen. But, yeah, it does sound like changes are coming. Only 2 offensive linemen named, or 3 if you count Riley Reef, but I'm not sure. He doesn't have a long-term future, let's be honest, just in terms of like the young guys. It's Tevin Jenkins and Braxton Jones. Those 2 guys probably feel a lot better about their standing than some of the other guys in that offensive line room right now.
Well, someone else the Bears have to make a decision on is David Montgomery. I love this answer from Ryan Poles today when asked about the idea of bringing David Montgomery, who's going to be a free agent. Does he want to bring him back?
Right. Montgomery, I know he's a free agent coming up. Did he do enough this year for you to want to keep him in the fold here?
I've always wanted to keep David. I love his mentality, how he plays the game. I told him that to his face, and it comes from, he's part of the identity that we had this year that kept us competitive. Now, the second part of that is just the contract situation. That's something that we'll see how that goes, and if we can find common ground. I've learned that you can want a player, and the value's got to come together for it to happen. But I love the way that he attacked this season. Like that's a guy that does everything right. And you all watched his tenacity, his fight. Like I'm a big David Montgomery fan.
Big David Montgomery fan, he said there.
Yeah. Love that answer because that's kind of what I expected to hear from them. I think they like him a lot. I think they like that tandem they have with Khalil Herbert. And to me, it's like, why create another problem? You look at the number of first downs this guy picked up for you, the dirty yards, I call them, important yards, the way he always falls forward. There's a bigger value in that, even at the running back position, than people realize. And I just think they're going to come to common ground here. If this was a dry running back market and he was at the top, I'd be a little worried that maybe some team swoops in and overpays him. This is one of those situations to me, Johns, where he has more value to the Bears than any other team. And I don't think it's really even going to cost them that much to keep him.
You almost wonder if he'd entertain a 1 or 2 year deal just to see this through a little bit longer. Because if you listen to David Montgomery Monday at Hallis Hall or 24 hours before that at Soldier Field, he wants to be here. He loves his time here. He doesn't want it to end. But I liked what Pohl said about him. It's the identity, like how he fits the identity, the nastiness, the dominance, the brute force, the type of will the Bears want to play offensively. You saw that come to fruition in the run game. Tevin Jenkins was a part of that. Herbert was a part of that. Fields was even a part of that. But David Montgomery might be the engine of that.
Yeah, and I get the scheme concerns. I think he answered the scheme concerns. He was still really effective this year, even if
I'd say there's more there because we know he could be a better receiver as well.
True. To me, it almost bothers me a little bit when people are like, yeah, Khalil Herbert had more yards per carry, though. If you look at the way they were used this year, like they were asking Khalil Herbert to pick up the bigger chunk yards. They were asking David Montgomery to get the short yardage yards, if that makes sense. Like they go to him in those short yardage situations where they have to get the first down, where they have to just get the ball a yard and a half forward.
Whereas they like both and they want both here.
Yeah, that's why I guess that's what I'm getting at.
And I think pick one. They can pick both.
Like they were one of the best rushing teams in football this year. And they have a chance to keep them both for relatively cheap while making the offensive line even better.
Yeah, Herbert's got 2
Why
years
wouldn't
left
you do that?
Yes. It makes too much sense.
Yeah. Also, I think it matters that I don't know that you got out of this season thinking Treston Ebner can do what David Montgomery was giving you.
No.
That could have changed the equation for me. If you knew that running back you drafted this year, and sure, you can maybe draft another one, but I don't know. I just think it's going to come together where let me ask you this: $9 million a year, regardless of the length of it.
Like 2 years, 2 years, 2 years, $15 million. you know what? The Bears have the room.
Yeah.
If you believe he's such an important part of your identity, you could pay him a little bit more to keep him here and keep him happy. Because that hard work's not going to go away. I think he'll even give you more, in a sense, because that's who David Montgomery is. And no, Ebner didn't show. He doesn't run like David Montgomery. It's as simple as that. It's not the same style. It's not the same demeanor. It's just
he doesn't pass protect like that. Who are you going to replace him with? That's my question. Another draft pick? Cool. Why don't you use that draft pick on another position in need, though? Why create another need?
You got a lot of needs.
Yeah. All right. Chase Claypool. Speaking of needs. Speaking of using draft picks on needs. Ask straight up in so many words. What's up with that trade you made, man? And how it really doesn't seem to be working. Here's what Ryan Poles had to say about Claypool.
Ryan, your evaluation of Claypool, 14 catches in 7 games. I think a lot of people are joining a weaker receiving core. A lot of people thought he would have stood out a lot more than that.
Yeah, that's a good point. You know, I think that's the difference between like trades in baseball and basketball. It's like plug and play. There's an entire offseason and half of a season of installs and all the things that you need to do collectively to play and execute offensive play. On top of that, it was a little bit choppy with Justin getting dinged up. He got dinged up. So it was a little bit choppy of a start. I told Chase, and we had a really good conversation, I'm not blinking at that one at all. I think he's going to help us moving forward, and I'm excited about it.
Knowing that he'd be coming up for an extension this offseason, this doesn't change your opinion at all? You're of the same mindset you were when you acquired him?
I think, if with health, with Justin being out for a little bit, your expectation, I told him, I wish he came in, he had 1,000 yards, and we're going, but it didn't happen that way. But do I believe in the talent and what he can bring to this team? I do. And I still think we're going to get that. In terms of the contract stuff, to me, we just got to take the next step and see how he gets implemented and how he does in this offseason. He's going to spend a lot of time with Justin as well as the other receivers and build that chemistry, and we'll be able to evaluate that even clearer next year.
Next year is how he finished that. He's not getting that contract extension right away. I think is the translation there. No. And that was another way of saying we need to see it. Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think it would be crazy to give it to him now.
If there's one player, like coming out of that press conference, if there's one player who's getting that contract extension, it's his former Notre Dame teammate, Cole Kmet.
Yeah.
The one player named by name when Ryan Poles was asked, like, who are your blue chip players? And that was Cole Kmet, who had, 7 touchdowns this year, 8 touchdowns this year, became a darn good tight end. Leave it at that, productive. But I always looked at the Claypool trade as like a 2023 move, whether it's free agency class and not wanting to pay some of those receivers in play for 2023 or the receiver class, in the draft. It's just not the same as it was in previous years. It was a long-term move, and I actually think, all the things that happened this year, Fields getting hurt, Claypool getting hurt, a lot of in and out with the offense. I think that kind of helps the Bears here in this instance because they don't have to pay Claypool. Like, his side doesn't have an argument for an extension. He has to go out next year and prove it. Go get it. You have a motivated player in that sense.
Now, the other wide receiver that I feel like has almost gotten forgotten about here since he got hurt is Darnell Mooney. There seemed to be a little bit of hesitation on whether or not he'd be ready for the spring. What did you take from the update we got on Darnell Mooney, where it was like Poles kind of reverted to Flus, and then Flus was like, I think he'll be ready by the spring, but that was interesting.
Part of me thought it was just consistent with how Flus has addressed injuries.
Yeah.
Even after the season, doesn't want to give much clarity on them, or maybe he just forgot, didn't have it in his notes. Spring sounds fine. It's a couple months away. He's got the summer. It's better than saying the summer, right? It sounds like he'll be ready for training camp. And really, most of the time, that's all that matters.
Yeah. So, obviously, Mooney, Claypool, part of this thing going forward. Who else they add? Obviously, we'll continue to talk about that going forward. Last thing I want to hit on. News broke between the press conference and us doing this podcast that Roquan Smith got his money, got his $100 million, top paid linebacker, $200 million a year, $200 million a year. That'd be a huge contract. $20 million a year. What's your reaction?
He was never going to get that with the Bears. I want to start with that. Good for him. I'm never upset when a player gets outstanding money. This is a violent sport. Their careers are short. They put a lot of things on the line, physically, mentally, and good for him. He's earned it, or he's always believed he's earned it. But in terms of the Bears, the fit didn't seem right. Having him be his own agent for a first-year GM didn't seem right. He wasn't going to get that type of deal here.
What do you say, though, to the idea that, well, the Ravens are a good organization. They can work it out with them. And the Bears don't, understandably so, the Bears don't have that same credibility. I mean, it kind of seems like a fair criticism. Well, if it worked out for the Ravens, why couldn't it have worked out for the Bears?
I think he just joined the defense that he fits better.
Which is
right?
Also fair. Yeah.
Yeah. Like it's a 3-4. There are stars at all three levels of that defense, by the way. And we saw in 2018 when he's in a defense like that, he's another star himself. Here he needed to be like the superest of superstars. Did he not? And the Bears just weren't ready to pay him.
Well, I think that's my counter is like, well, would he have been worth that money for the Bears if they had added those types of players on the D-line that he didn't have in front of them and all around them? And part of me still is just like wishes we had been able to see Roquan play next to Jack Sanborn. Yeah. And that never happened because they didn't move Sanborn in there until Roquan left. And that still sort of seems like a miss to me.
I think that Ryan Poles, especially when it comes to roster construction, said something very important today. Like how he values premium positions in terms of what he's building. You got the passer, pass rushers, pass protectors, pass defenders, and cornerbacks. I know I'm using the word pass a little bit, but quarterbacks, pass rushers, offensive tackles, cornerbacks, and then receivers. He doesn't sound like a GM in his first year who was ready to pay record-setting money to an off-ball linebacker. Just wasn't.
And I'm guessing on his end, he'd also go, well, yeah, Jack Sanborn's the reason why you don't need to pay $100 million.
Yeah.
We can go find another Jack Sanborn this year. Now that I think about it, I don't think Sanborn's name came up during the press conference.
Did not. He was actually hit a cast on his left foot. He was wheeling around the locker room on Monday. Did you see that? Looks like some surgery happened.
So he had the well, that's interesting because Flus said he'd probably come back if it had been earlier in the season. Huh.
Maybe they saw something else.
Yeah, maybe. So both of those ankle injuries for Mooney and Sanborn turned out to be kind of bigger deals, I guess. All right. Well, that's going to do it for us today. Good wrap up of the press conference, though. Glad we can get this out there. We are going to be back Thursday, of course. Special guest. Should we tease who the guest is?
Go ahead.
Our guy, your guy, Nate Tice. Jumping
Justin
on with
Fields'
us.
guy. Or
Justin
a guy
Fields.
for Justin Fields.
Yes. President of the Justin Fields fan club. Look, he's evaluated these quarterbacks this year. He obviously is always good on Justin Fields. You've probably heard him on past episodes. And if you haven't, you're going to tune in anyway because it's awesome. So we'll have Nate with us on Thursday as we check in with him on the quarterback situation once again. We'll look ahead to the playoffs a little bit as well this weekend. Should be a fun weekend with 6 playoff games. In the meantime, follow us on Twitter at Adam Hoge, at Adam Jahns. You can read us on read Johnsy on the Athletic, at least theathletic.com/Hoge Jahns. You can read me at allchgo.com. And yeah, we'll talk to you on Thursday. Merch up, obviousshirts.com as well. And Looking forward to talking to Nate later in the week. Talk to you then.
See ya.